Hey guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I have my Q4 of 2023 stats. So we're going to be going over the months of October, November, and December in 2023, which overall, not too bad. I will say that I had one month that didn't go as well as probably the rest of them, and I think I had my lowest rating in the entire year, but let's get into it. So first and foremost, let's go into October. So October, I had a total of 5 physical books read, 3 ebooks, 1 audiobook. 8 of the books I read were from my personal library and 1 was borrowed. I read no fantasy books or nothing I would consider to be fantasy in October. I read 1 sci-fi book, 7 books that were more on the contemporary side, 0 historical fiction, and 1 nonfiction book. Now, I will say this was the month where I had my lowest rating of the entire year, which was a 3.8 stars, and my average pages were at about 55.42 pages per day, and minutes-wise, about 76.03 minutes worth of audiobooks. Then in November, I had 2 physical books read, 1 ebook, 1 audiobook. All 4 of the books I read were from my personal library. I read 1 fantasy book and 3 sci-fi books. And I read no contemporary, no historical, no nonfiction. My average rating did go up that month, which was a 4.25 stars. My average pages, though, went down to a 31.27 pages per day, and also my minutes average went down to 21.13 minutes per day. Then in December, I had actually a really good month. I think that this was my best month in terms of rating, but that's also because I only had 3 books that I read, and they were all 5 stars. So I had 1 physical book, 1 ebook, 1 audiobook. 2 of the books I read were from my personal library, and 1 was borrowed. 1 of the books I read was fantasy, and the other 2 were sci-fi, or more sci-fi related. Like I said, my average rating was a 5-star. That's the best month I've had average rating-wise, because all 3 of the books I read were 5 stars. My average pages did go down, though, a little bit, where I only read about 25.03 pages per day, and my minutes actually were the same from November to December, which is kind of funny, with 21.13 minutes per day. Okay, so let's go into my favorite book of the year. Switch to my phone camera for this, but out of every book I read in the entire year of 2023, I would say my favorite book was, drumroll, The Final Strife by Sarah El-Harifi. I almost forgot her name. I don't know why I almost forgot her name. It was a reread for me this year. I still think it's my favorite book, no matter what. I think that out of everything I read this year, this book still hit in a way that none of the other books could. And am I ashamed to say that a reread was a favorite for this year? No, not by any means. I am happy with this. There's a reason I reread it in the first place, and I think it definitely deserves the recognition that it needs. This is not only a woman author, but a person of color author as well, and is not from the US. She's from the UK, and this series is just chef's kiss. Perfect. I cannot wait for book 3 to come out in 2024. I'm so excited. I feel like overall Q4 was pretty decent. Like I said, I think that I had both my worst and my best ratings in the entire year in this quarter, but that also is because, like I said, in December I only read 3 books, and all 3 of the books ended up being 5 stars. So it was a great way to end the, year, but that does kind of skew in some ways the stats for the entire year. I think that total, what I ended up being able to do was read a lot of fantasy. I think I definitely read more fantasy than I expected. I read a total of 62 physical books, 28 ebooks, and 9 audiobooks. 71 of the books I read were from my personal library, and 28 of them were borrowed. 45 of the books I read were fantasy. Sci-fi was 16, contemporary 26, historical 6, and 3 nonfiction books, which I'm surprised I read 3 nonfiction books. I did not expect it to be that much. I knew I had read at least 1, but I thought it was only 1 book. So not too bad. For my average rating, I had a total average rating for the entire year of 4.3 3.6. So not too bad. I will say that probably most of my rating this year was like a 4 out of 5 stars. Most of the books I read were 4 stars. I didn't really have a lot of books I didn't like to where I needed to unhaul them because I didn't like them so much, but I also didn't have as many books as 4 stars where I absolutely loved them. I did have quite a lot of 5 stars, I will say, this year, but I don't think that surpassed the amount of 4 stars I have, which is why this is more of a 4-star kind of year, which is not too bad. I will take it. Then in terms of my average pages, I read an average of 2.77 pages per day. And then for my average minutes, I listened to less than a minute, about 3/4 of a minute worth of audiobooks every day, because I definitely did not read as many audiobooks as I probably would have. I just didn't get a chance. Or what ended up happening was I counted the physical book instead of the audiobook, because I had the audiobook just so that I could get through the physical book a little easier, but I counted it towards my physical read, not my audiobook reads. But without further ado, that's all the stats for this year and for Q4 of 2023. So I feel like it was a pretty successful year, honestly. Like, having a 4.36 rating overall for the entire year is really good. Like, that's a really good average, I think, in my mind. But I would love to know what your guys' stats are. Like, what did you guys end up getting in terms of your average rating for the year, or your average, pages per day? What was it? Like, let me know. I love all the numbers. I think it's going to be really fun to see that. So thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already and I would like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.